project. We want to thank you all for coming out and be a part of this very significant and critical discussion regarding Project 2025. Second, I want to thank Pastor Jackson. So we got you. For one, like, incredible guy, incredible pastor, incredible ties to the community, do incredible work to the community, and every time that we really want to do something and pretty much, especially including faith-based and just pretty much just doing work within the community, one of the main people I reach out to is Pastor Jackson. And I appreciate him for never telling me no. But we also try to come out and help out as well. So thank you again to Pastor Jackson. So,
thank you.
Oh, so this right here, like, for one, we are Black Liberty Project Incorporated. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization based out of Gary, Indiana. Give you that information because we started back in 2012 as just doing an event. So as one of our members came up with this phrase, this pretty much started as a week of activism that turned into a lifetime of impact. And that's pretty much how we doing right now. Like we started in 2012. We went years, and what we do is we take the resources of the union, resources of the labor movement, put it directly into the Black community. And we was doing that every year. We do a conference where we do 5 consecutive days and putting it right back into the community, going to the schools, going to the organizations within the city, try to feed the community, try to just be a resource, a tangible resource to the community, not just somebody just coming around just trying to get a picture and leave. We really focus on results when we come to Black Labor Week. I don't think we have it any other way. And if we don't see them, we actually work harder the next time to make sure we try to see something. I thought that this discussion and trying to create a series, our committee want to create a series talking about Project 2025. If you really look at it, it's a 900-page document, and I really feel that it targets us as Black people, the Black community, the most. Don't get me wrong, I think it really attacks people of color, period. But I think we really come up on the short end of the stick when it comes on all of it. It attacks civil rights, it attacks education, it attacks workers' rights. Even one component of it talked about like not even paying you overtime for the work that you're actually doing. So I felt like we should have like a series, and this is just the introduction. So this would be considered the light night. But as we continue to go, part 2 will be more in depth, more like hard, more like I want to say aggressive discussions and conversations, because what we want to know from Black Liberty Project is what can we do as a community, let's say when the worst happens, and we're not parts, I can't say names, but then if the worst happens and these things begin to take place, what can we do as a community to organize and mobilize and create change towards it? So that's a real live discussion. The reason why it's a real live discussion is because I feel like that's something that we don't do a lot of anymore. We show up, even within the labor movement, we make phone calls and emails. I think that's intangible in a way. Because the fact is, those things could be controlled. Those things could be blocked. We don't have too many grassroots movements that actually really, they're ready to march and actually create formations down at the state capitol, down in DC, where we can actually see tangible results, where we can become the threat that we should be becoming. Back in the 8th of the Randolph days, the MLK, the Byron. I feel like sometimes we become complacent. And one of the things when it comes to Black Labor Week, Black Labor Project is, a lot of us up here have been doing political work when it comes to our respective unions. And when it comes to it, like, we go around every community except ours. And it's strategically and intentionally created like that. We only come to the black community, and you could, unless you like SEIU or something like that, but we really only come to the black community like that weekend before the election, and we flood the black community. But if we, you know what I'm saying, as the black community, like it's already expected for us to actually vote or select a candidate a certain way. But we still want to be seen. We shouldn't go off assumptions. You know what I mean? Like, because, and that's important to us. So it's like creating platforms like this where we can have tangible conversations and really like just come up like with solutions in a way. Or if we can't come up with solutions, come up with structures and outlines and just suggestions that can lead to solutions. Because we don't all have the answers, but somebody in here knows somebody who will. That's why these things are called the Presidential Transition Project. But that's only going towards one way. It's a conservative, it's created by the Heritage Foundation, and it's pretty much for what they're actually trying to determine nothing but conservative policies that has nothing to do with us but go against us. A lot of conservative policies, and we're going to hear a couple of things tonight. Myself, that's Sharia Smith. You already know the beloved Pastor Jackson. We got Marat. Mimi. How about chop that up? And my man, Brother Clarence Thornton. You'll be hearing from us, but this is not going to be something that for us to just talk at you. We want to hear from you. We want to hear like how you feel when you first like got the word of Project 2025. What went through? Like what triggered your mindset? Like what were you feeling? Did you feel it was going to be against you? Did you feel it was going to hurt you? Did you feel like all is done? Like we want to know those emotions, and that's another reason why we're here tonight. So no further ado, I'm gonna pass it over to Sharia Smith.
Thank you, EJ. Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Sharia Smith. You may be wondering how did I get the first microphone. I'm not the biggest name on this panel for sure, but I did ask to be on this panel, but I have a flight, so I'll be leaving out in about 30 minutes or so from my home in Dallas, Texas. But I am from Gary, Indiana, a former teacher, current civil rights lawyer for the U.S. Department of Education.
All right.
And my black job is on the line. I am, since this is being videotaped and to make sure I'm compliant with the hashtag, I'm here on this panel in my capacity as the National Union President representing my 3,000 colleagues in the U.S. Department of Education who are at risk of being eliminated if Project 2025 does come into fruition. I started my career in the U.S. Department of Education at the bottom end of the last Obama administration. Took the job thinking it was going to be a different female president administration in 2016. That was not what happened. The last administration for our agency and for federal workers, Federation-wide, was a very difficult time to work. And it's not just our jobs, but it's the work that we do for the citizens in this nation, and the work that we do specifically in the U.S. Department of Education, which funds public schools, funds education for secondary education, higher education, unless you have $70,000 just at your disposal to pay for college. You've likely interacted with my colleagues in the U.S. Department of Education. And make no mistake about it, the Heritage Foundation is seeking to eliminate us. Ooh, okay. And to privatize, look at the devil's alive. To privatize how we do our work and how your access to education entirely. I'm sorry, can I be here? But I won't be here for very long because I have a flight, but I wanted to make sure that the other panelists have. Oh, I'm good? Okay. So we're taking a big opportunity, especially in my union capacity, to speak about Project 2025 because it directly affects my black job and the black job of 3,000 other employees that I represent. One of a neat opportunity I had was just 2 months ago, for appearing in a skit with Kenan Thompson about Project 2025, and specifically how it would impact my agency, but it's not just my agency, it is the Environmental Protection Administration, the VA, Veterans Affairs, is always on the chopping block, because the desire by many people who are in the 1% is to privatize everything so they can make the money. It does not mean that the services will be improved. I know there are a lot of educators in the room. I see some of my very own. I'm a product of the Gary Community Schools Corporation. And I, just let you know that just being private doesn't mean that it's better. And I think too often in this country, we assume that just because something is more expensive or that it's better, then that's what you want. That has not served our community, and it will not serve our community. And it will make everything more expensive for all of us in this room. And it will only benefit the very people who have authored this treatise, this 900-page treatise. And what's also so frustrating, I want to make sure I don't say this enough, but my agency also does public student loan forgiveness. So if you have student loans, you probably interacted with our agency. What's so frustrating is that the staff members of the Heritage Foundation qualify for public service loan forgiveness, and many of them probably have utilized my agency to get their loans forgiven, and now they're trying to eliminate us. It's just, it is infuriating. So that's me. I was like, oh, that sounds so familiar. But yeah, you look up that skit on YouTube for DNC, but it's just very frustrating, just the hypocrisy that we are seeing in this, and I don't expect anyone to read all 900 pages. To be frank, I only read the pages that mention my agency because, again, it's my job on the line. And I do think it's a very real threat because the last administration, the last presidential administration, was a very, very difficult one. We have high attrition in the federal sector, mainly because we take significant pay cuts to work in the federal sector. I took a 50% pay cut to help people, also because I paid off my student loans. But if you don't have people doing that work, then the work doesn't get done. You don't need a congressional vote to eliminate an agency if there's no one there to work. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the threat that we're really facing, or who is actually working there. In the last administration, you had a lot of hires with very questionable educational backgrounds working in the U.S. Department of Education, coming from extremely conservative institutions like Liberty University, people who have made it known that they were supportive of the last administration. That's not who you want working in the federal government. You want us to be independent because we're working, we have to work for all citizens. You are paying taxes for our salary no matter what side of the aisle we identify it with. And part of Project 2025 is specifically seeking to only hire federal employees who are going to be supporters of that current administration. So it is, it's seeking to eliminate the independence of the people that your tax dollars go for. And if they are only being paid based on their ability to align themselves, if you are a citizen, you aren't aligned with whoever might take office, what type of service do you think you're really going to receive from the very people whose salaries are paid for by your tax dollars? This is the threat. This is a threat to democracy, frankly. So I'm happy to be here, although briefly, and take any questions that I can answer with you. And I'm so glad you guys are taking time to be here tonight to learn about this threat.
Thank you, Sharia. Anybody got any questions for Sharia before she head out of here? All right, once you get up, let's $50 a question.
Charge a little bit more.
All right. Oh man, she said no discount.
Just a comment. Thank you.
And this is my former student. I'm very proud of her just as much as her mom is. Let's give her a hand, Sharia. Madame, j'ai un professeur de français et elle a mon étudiant, my student. I'm very happy to be here. There's a statement Project 2025, created out of the Heritage Foundation in 1972, brought up to this forefront now, in which Trump, and I mentioned this earlier in the room, Trump refuses to acknowledge, or his team says, do not align yourself with 2025. However, not aligning himself with 2025 has also created another project called Agenda 47. If I'm not, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just doing this through my reading and my own personal education, educating myself about this. And so Project 2025, a 922-page document, has been decreased to Agenda 47, 180-plus page, but all of it's the same. It's from the same soup, same piece of breakfast, same everything. It's the same thing. And we cannot let this person get in. We cannot. So whatever we can do, sidetracking a little bit, young people, the ones who say, my vote's not gonna count, to the point that I even met with a lady in the grocery store who was working in the self-checkout, and I said, sweetheart, have you registered to vote? Why should I? So she is my personal project. It Strax on 61st. Every time I see her, sweetheart, I'm gonna bug you until you realize that your vote counts. And so that's what we have to keep doing on these one-on-one bases to make sure that our children, the ones that we are now the winds beneath their wings. And we've got to convince them that this is not the attitude that you should take. And that Project 2025 and Agenda 47 are two major catastrophes should this person get in office. So this is all I wanted to say. Thank you. Give an honor to God.
And before we pass to the Pastor Jackson, give y'all a little information about the Heritage Foundation. Their mission statement is every day the Heritage Foundation is building an America where freedom, opportunity, prosperity, and civil society flourish. Heritage mission is to formulate and promote public policies based on the principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. So that description, the mission of the Heritage Foundation is like excluding us automatically. Excluding us automatically. When the elite put two things, American and freedom, in the same category, we already know they're not meaning us. We found that out within the Constitution. But at the same time, like she was saying earlier, me and my brother, my mother and my auntie, they brought us up making sure that we was trying to register people to vote at the age of 7 and 8 years old. Yeah, that's child labor and all, but we didn't get paid, so we got a couple of grievances out there right now. But the thing is, they educated us and impacted us and influenced us to actually take it and understand it through a serious lens, not to just take it for granted in a way. So I can see a lot of young folks saying that their vote doesn't count. They're not put into an environment where they can actually see the tangible reasons why it counts. But that's why we got people like yourself and myself and other folks within the room, so we can continue to actually be consistent with our attempts to actually get them to be registered and understand the whole process and to understand how they can make their vote count. I think a lot of them really don't understand that.
Just a point I wanted to make before I leave. Voting is absolutely critical, but on top of voting, and probably even more important than voting, is making sure that the people that are elected in from every level, municipal to the halls of Congress, that you are engaging with them and that you're letting them know what you expect from them. I see all these campaign signs all over the city, from U.S. senators to state reps. If Project 2025 is a threat to you, then I think it would be helpful for you to let those candidates know that if they get into, downstate or to DC or anywhere, they're asking for your vote, that you let them know what you're expecting from them. And I don't think enough of us utilize that power. We absolutely show up in droves to the polls, but we're not telling these people that get paid by our tax dollars what we expect from them. But the people like the Heritage Foundation are. And so I think it is helpful to us. This is something I just started doing, in my union capacity, call it lobbying. But letting them know this is important to me, and if you want my vote the next time around, if you want to stay in this office, this is what I'm expecting from you, and you can see their voting records. It's all public. So if you're not voting the way I need you to vote on an issue that is critical to me, you're going to hear from me. And I'm going to tell my members what you are not doing for us. And I think that's important too. All these votes are public record. I know even, for the city stuff, you can go to council meetings, see how people are voting. If there's an issue that is important to you, and the people that you elected, even if you didn't vote for them, the people who are elected in that office are not serving your needs, they need to be made accountable on every time they show up. If you have the time, let your desires known to the people who are elected. Not only when you go to the polls, but even when they get that job. Make sure that they are doing the job. And all these people who have signs over the city, let them know that, ask them where they stand on Project 2025 and what they're going to do about it. Even if they are not federal, running for a federal office, they have some influence. If they want to be a state rep, how are you going to use your influence to make sure that this doesn't come into fruition? There is agency there, and they should be using their agency, and you are their constituent, and you should let them know what you want them to do.
Oh, Steve?
Yes, Terry Stiegel.
I said Steve.
What I hate to see is every attempt the Biden administration tries to move forward on these loan forgiven programs right now. It seems like they're taking them to court. And I just saw something in the paper today where they're trying to do something to stop the loan forgiveness. And maybe you give us enlightenment, because you folks are being attacked right now. This is not even 2025. This is right now. Your agency is being under severe attack, and we hate to see that. And thank you for your service.
Yeah, no. Thanks for that. And I'm glad we actually just had a pretty good court opinion in a limited, allowing student loan forgiveness in a limited capacity. And I just think this whole litigation is wild. As someone who paid off my loans years ago, I don't understand why anyone would be against other people receiving, even if you didn't get it, people receiving, a freedom from debt, because that helps the economy. And frankly, many of these schools are vastly overcharging for the benefit that they receive, which is another thing that I want people to be aware of. Not only do we do student loan forgiveness in our division, but there's also a division of our agency, thank you, I have 5 minutes, called Borrower's Defense. And Borrower's Defense is specifically for people who went to schools where after they graduated from those schools, they were unable to get gainful employment, or they're still working the same jobs that they had before they even went to that school, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars. If you Google Borrower's Defense for federal student aid, there's a 21-page application that I encourage you to fill out. Many people who went to the Art Institute filled out those applications, and they had their loans completely eliminated because of allegations of fraud against that school, because those schools have overcharged their students, and after graduating from those institutions, their students by and large aren't able to get gainful employment, and it's something our agency is currently looking at. But I encourage you all, if you have student loans, to fill out those applications, because if my colleagues have to adjudicate those applications before January, or else the default is elimination of your debt. And that's a lot of applications. And we don't have the staff, I don't think, to really get to all of them. So it might be a really good use of your time to apply for that borrower's defense application. But you're absolutely right, we're under the gun and we're also understaffed. One of the things the last administration did was not ask for enough of a budget and did not hire people. So we're working with a third of the staff to do this work. And even with a third of that staff, we're still forgiven billions of dollars of loans. That is a game changer, particularly in our community where we often have to borrow money. And when we do get jobs, we're helping our families. It's not like we're starting from scratch. And so if you can eliminate your debt that you cannot discharge, that is a game changer, not just for you, but for your entire community. That's money that you can then use to purchase a home, or you can use to start your business, or you can use it to be a lot more flexible in your career choices, where you didn't have to do what I did, which is work for the man for a couple of years, because they're the only ones that are paying you 6 figures to pay off your loans, and you can actually start working in civil rights if that's what your heart desires, and take that 50% pay cut. Ooh, it's hard, but take that 50% pay cut because you can afford to do it. So thank you so much for even, that question. But he's absolutely right. Student loan forgiveness is the work that my colleagues are doing in the union, where I am so honored to lead, and making sure our agency is properly funded so we can continue doing that work at even greater lengths is important, I think, to all of us. And it looks like I have to go.
And come on, give it up again for these labor leaders. And I asked to do that to celebrate them, what EJ and his team and all of them are doing, because they are traveling in the path that others before us have traveled, and we need this. We got our the big progress of the civil rights bills and the voting rights bill because of persons like EJ and these labor leaders who joined with social activists who were then putting pressure on a racist Klansman president by the name of LBJ. And if you can move a racist Klansman president by the name of LBJ to do what he did not want to do, then imagine what we can do now, right? It takes organizing, and so I thank them because EJ briefly mentioned, I call him a Jegna. Jegna in the Ethiopian language means warrior for our people. William Bill Lucy, he passed away about a week ago. And if you remember, Dr. King went to Memphis to support the sanitation workers because one of the persons that worked on one of the garbage trucks, they had no place to eat lunch. They had no place to use the bathroom. They had to stay on the truck. So he was on the back of the truck trying to eat lunch when he was crushed by the truck. And so 13,000 sanitation workers went on strike. And when you see Eyes on the Prize or whatever, there you see these men wearing these big signs that said, "I am a man." That was William Bill Lucy. He went down to Memphis to help organize and work with them in negotiation, and he created that phrase that they walked around with, "I am a man." So these young labor leaders are in that same stream, and I just celebrate it. So one more time, please give So the other, the last thing I'll say right now, because DJ said we're not gonna get real deep, right? So we ain't gonna get real deep. But you hear from Project 2025 and these conservative right-wing folk who are talking about going back. They're talking about make America great again. When was it ever great, right? You have to ask that question to people who say that. And so you know what they mean by that. And so to give you an idea, Project Project 2025 wants to eliminate the Department of Education, because what they're saying is not only privatization, but they want to go back to states' right, where states decided this. So Brown versus Board of Education decision comes down. And those of you who know the theologian, Dr. Aubrey Hendricks, he writes about this in his book, Christians Against Christianity. And what he pointed out, this happened all over the South in particular. So Brown versus Board of Education, because white folk did not want to have black students in their schools, Prince Edward County, Virginia, closed all of the public schools, opened up private schools for white children only. For over 5 years, black children had no school to go to. So this is what we're facing, and it's what you have heard is an existential threat. And so to close, that means that along with the labor leaders and activists and grassroots folk, we have to continue to do this, which is why I'm glad it is a series, because what we're actually doing is putting together platforms. We have to put together platforms so that Maynard Jackson did this. Now there were some challenges with his tenure as mayor, but one of the things he did that was so important was they created a 7-point platform that every black person on a palm card, that they could have that, the 7 points that we need any person that's running for office to be able to agree to, or we ain't gonna vote for you. And so we want to create platforms so that anytime somebody is running for office, do you agree to these 7 points, right? So that all of us can be on the same page with it, so we can come together and create that platform so that when people are running for office, we tell them what we want. They work for us. Their only job is to bring resources to our community. That's their only job, right? And so I've been wanting to, for years now, have one of these voter education moments where we go through the job description of everybody that we would be voting for, from council person to mayor to representative to whatever the office is. What is your job description, right? What can you actually do? Because what we hear during election time in particular is, we're going to get world peace. We're going to have everybody come together, kumbaya. That ain't your job description. But you're fooling people by talking about candy, and you're tricking people with talking about candy rather than talking about substance and what you actually can do. And so that's where I'm going to leave it right there. But I'm glad that we are beginning this, that it will continue. So thank you so much.
See, I want to stick around for part 2. On the 15th, Pastor Jackson, right? But see, that's exactly what we're talking about, though. And if I give it to Mimi and Clarence, that's exactly what we're talking about. Every last one of us within Black Liberty Project, like, we have like these deep beliefs. We have deep beliefs of grassroots organizing, deep beliefs of history, especially when it comes to us. Very deep beliefs in community. But we pride ourselves on our belief in the youth. We all came from that one component of growing up, seeing things we thought was right, till we got a little older, we found it was already going down the wrong path. It's like, you got people like Pastor Jackson, and even Mimi, Clarence, Tisha, Pam, Teresa, Craig, Selena, I see Tony and Angie. All of them give something to this organization. And we bounce off each other. It's not a leader. We have leaders. One thing we pride ourselves on, again, when we come to Black Liberty, is leadership development. We always put ourselves, I got this saying where I tell folks that I always put myself in a position to learn before I can ever put myself in a position to lead. And as long as I continue to believe that, it keeps me humble. And to be honest, it keeps the people around me humble, but also thirsty to actually do the right thing and be active and create more activism, bring more leaders in, and actually create exposure to our plight so we can actually create solutions to what's going on around us. So with that, I'm gonna give it to Mimi and to give you a quick synopsis, quick thing about Mimi. She literally became the first Black president of local 13796, and that's those workers. She represents the NIPSCO workers in the clerical division, right? That's history. That's part of like what we up here talking about. Like that's history. That's a person who actually saw there was a need that you kind of say like for probably 70 years the odds were stacked against us when it comes to taking that top leadership role. But believing in yourself, having a good team around you, and humbling yourself with humility allow you to actually step into the leadership roles that you was automatically destined to be in when you was created. So with that, here go Mimi.
Thank you for coming out, everybody. My small piece regarding Project 2025 is the threat to healthcare. Project 2025 does not seek to overturn the Affordable Care Act, but would make significant cuts in Medicaid and impose work requirements to receive the coverage, as well as reform to Medicare, including making Medicare Advantage a paid supplement to Medicare and the default options for patients. Right now, in the United States, there are over 32 million people that are on Medicare, and there are over 70 million people that are on Medicaid. So if Project 2025 does come into play, it would be detrimental to a lot of our parents, our grandparents, and people with disabilities that would not be able to afford health care or have adequate health care. So we ask that you make sure you get out there on November 5th and you vote for the party that does not support Project 2025.
Medicare for all.
Yes.
Well, my name is Clarence. Thank you for coming out, everyone. We really appreciate it. So my take is on Project 25. It's a little bit different. I mean, I read some of the things on there, some things I don't agree with, but also some things I kind of agree with. I think as far as education, I do believe that as far as Black people, our kids should have the right, their parents should have the right to choose where they want to send their child to, if it's a public school or a charter school or a private school. Now, why I say that, because I went to mostly parochial school all my life. I started at MC Bennett, Holiness School, then from there I went to Holy Trinity, then from there I went to Andrean. So my perspective on the education part is a little bit different. Now, while my mom sent me there, my sister graduated, started at Holy MC Bennett, Holy Trinity, then Sister Thea Bowman, she graduated from Bishop Noah. Now, it is a difference between when you go to a private school like that and then a public school. When you're paying your money, you get a certain level of education for that child, so forth. Public school, you got to deal with everyone that comes in. But I do believe that public school should have the correct funding for those kids to get the same opportunity if they was going to a private school or a charter school. I mean, I know times is different because I'm 50, and a lot of people a little bit older than me, but you know, when we was growing up, our parents took time with us, made sure the homework was done, went over 1, 2, 3s and math and so forth. I know these parents today, these younger parents, are not really doing that. So I do believe I know it has an effect on how the child is learning. But you do have some parents that really do care about their children, and they see the public school system may not be filling their needs, so they want to go to a charter school and so forth. My thing is, I'm just concerned for Black children, period, or any child should have the proper education, and the parents should have the right to choose where they want to go. So with that, and I know a lot of people smile and some kind of frowning at me, and like I said, as far as with Blacks voting, I kind of agree with Pastor Jackson said is, we should have a card, and like I said, these are things that we want, this is things that we want, this is things that we stand on, and we want the politicians to serve us. And to me, I feel Blacks in general, we should be independent. What I mean by that is, we have our list, like Pastor Jackson said, okay, but if this Democratic candidate is not doing it for us, then we roll with the Republican candidate. If the Republican is not doing it for us, then we go to the Democrat or whoever. I feel that's what our power At EJ, he got me more involved into the union and so forth and everything. And I had done a political part for our international, USW. And I went out there to the house. So, and like I said, with Project 25, it's as blacks, we have been facing difficulties, no matter, really, to be honest, one matter which administration's in. We come in and showing it in the stick. But I feel, well, kind of what Pastor Jackson was saying is, we have the power to change our own destiny. I feel I don't need a white man to tell me to do this or that. We are intelligent enough, we know from right from wrong, and we all have the power to change our direction. It's like being with part of Black Labor Week Project with EJ. You know, like I said, he's raising leaders, he's bringing leadership that was already in us. We kind of knew or didn't know or need to be pushed further along, and I appreciate that about him. But we as a people, we can change our own direction. I don't need no white man to tell me I need to do this or I need to go here. We are smart enough to do it. If you go back to Black Wall Street back in those times, or the Harlem Renaissance, when black people come together and realize that we have to work together. When we work together, we had a wonderful community. We had our tax dollars stayed in the black community, and that's what we need to get on. So Project 25, yes, there's some things on there I don't. As far as the education, I'm half and half on, but also with the policy as far as making like a dictatorship, of course, I don't agree with that. So, but it's, you know, it's wishy-washy as far as blacks, we always come in the short end of the stick. So what I want is to make the best decision that's gonna be best for us. And kind of what Pastor Jackson was saying earlier, as far as we always focus on the presidential election. We need to focus on our local, especially with the city of the councilman that you pick, your mayor. You know, we need to know where their plans are, who they align with. Does that really benefit black people or not? It's like with now, I keep up with Chicago politics over there as far as with immigration thing. I think that affects a lot of black people because you have a lot of illegal or migrants that come in here, but they are sent to the black community. Now, you look at Chicago, I have friends over there, family. Over for years, they've been asking for money for those communities, and they always get the short end of the stick. But these migrants came over there, and they housed there, and they're getting money with no problem at all. 24-hour police protection, they're getting free housing, now they're getting them jobs and so forth, brand new clothing. But our people been there, and we've been having our hand out, and we are American citizens, and we deserve that money as well. So thank you.
And I'm gonna piggyback on what Clarence actually saying as well. Because the thing is, like, and I understand the point you're trying to make, but when it comes to education and the pick of private versus public, we gotta remember too that our public schools are not resourced or look like public schools outside of our area. You know, you go to Valpo, you know, their resources are way different than ours. You go out, even back when I was coming to school, you go to America, you go to Highland, you know, we lack the same resources. Like, it's just not equivalent. So, I mean, I understand when, you know, if we only judging from our area, which we should demand more from our area when it comes to public schools. And I think that's a little bit what you was trying to get at is even with private schools back in,
Right.
you know, like Christian schools like that back in the days, like, you know, maybe that education didn't reflect what was happening in the public schools, but we still gotta remember, and even going back to the days of Bill Lucy with the sanitation strike, you know, if you look at some of those facts, black versus white workers, you had black sanitation workers who actually had to leave their clothes right down outside before they even came in the house, pretty much almost stripping naked, just so they won't bring the stench in their house with to their families. At the same time, their white counterparts have full uniforms. So like, you know, with the I Am a Man and Dr. King actually looking at that sanitation strike as a good lead way for his Poor People's Campaign, because it reflected exactly what he was standing for within the Poor People's Campaign. that's really what we're talking about when it comes to this Project 2025. Like, you know what I mean, we're going to continue to be considered the have-nots when it comes to policy, when it comes to legislation, and it happens over and over again. We left out of every equation that's going to actually benefit us. So that, you know, and when it comes to, I know, say you got a choice to pick the schools, but with the deeper picture, and I believe it is actually quoted within the Project 2025, they want to eliminate the Department of Education. They're saying, which is like a smokescreen, saying like, you know, yeah, we want to eliminate the Department of Education because we want you to be able to freely choose what school you be able to go to. But you got to remember something: ain't no school funded for free. Ain't no teacher working for free. Which means those funds got to come from somewhere. So even though they giving smoke screens and actually create a perception that it's about to be like this freedom education thing, but it's not. It's not. Everything is actually going is something to keep us down even further. And like I said, even going back to the days of Bill Lucy, like people didn't even understand that. But to see 13,000 sanitation workers come together, black sanitation workers come together, you know, that's something to really think about. That's something to really think about. Everything that's going on in Project 2025, we should be ready to go completely out, completely hard with it. I mean, I think about the days during the sanitation strike, Dr. King's, that first march, going down there. You know, I tell people when I actually talk to them, like some of the schools, you gotta think about it. Dr. King was threatened, the planes said to have a bomb on it, they had to be deplane them, but yet he still felt he had to be there. Still felt he had to be there. The day of the his speech, his last speech at Mason Temple, you know, the thing is, in the books, they tell you that he got sick, you know, he got very ill. But what really happened was that it was a real bad rainstorm that flooded Memphis. And Dr. King felt no one was going to come. No one was going to be there. So he chose to stay behind in the hotel, sent Reverend Ralph Abernathy over to Mason Temple to let everybody know, like, I might not be, Dr. King ain't gonna be, y'all got me tonight. You know, I got a couple of words for y'all. Might not be Dr. King's, but I can tell y'all a couple of things. But when Reverend Ralph Abernathy got to Mason Temple, it was a fully packed church, but people still trying to get in. So think of that for a minute. That's one man. One man here to inspire like pretty much a nation at that time. Yeah, it was Memphis. Yeah, we were talking about sanitation workers, but that was a nation. That was a nation that came and gave, to me, one of his best speeches. And I always focus on the last like 2.5, 3 minutes of that speech. The last 2.5, 3 minutes of that speech, because as he flipped it, right there around maybe the 2-minute mark, you saw his eyes light up. And pretty much he told everybody, hey, pretty much life is life. So it don't even matter to me now. Completely not even talking about the sanitation strike anymore. At that moment, Dr. King saw a bigger picture. He saw his own sacrifice to actually paint a broader picture, to get folks down to actually believe in something bigger than themselves. To actually turn this speech around and actually talk about pretty much, hey, look, you know, it doesn't matter now. You know, we got greater days ahead. So I'm talking about life, talking about going to the mountaintop, seeing the promised land. He looked over. I mean, that was powerful. So we talking about like, and I'm gonna get back to you in a second, Pastor Jackson, like, we talk Project 2025, like, it's a bigger picture than us. You see what I'm saying? We're the now. We're right here. A lot of folks in here have got kids, and a lot of folks are looking to have kids, or got grandkids, or, you know, that's the future. I could leave this earth tomorrow, but I know my son got to deal with everything I leave behind. I know my daughter has to, even though my daughter like a little activist. My nieces, they're activists, you know. But the fight becomes harder if we don't do nothing today. So like these, like Pastor Jackson said, and if you talk about doing voter education, I would love to be a part of that as well. Pastor Jackson said, like, these platforms are needed. They're not needed just for us to get ahead and say, like, hey, look, you know, yada, 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 rah, rah, rah. Like, you know, I don't care for those type of things. I really don't. I hate to hear people talk just to hear themselves talk. You know, when I first heard Pastor Jackson, like, that hit me. And I think the first time I heard Pastor Jackson talk was back when Right to Work was trying to get passed. I was up here on the panel. Never even met Pastor Jackson before. But when I heard him, sometimes your words are power. Their influence, their motivation to the loss of your soul, to the loss of your mind. And this thing about that, like, you know, we can all use a little encouragement, a little inspiration, a little push. Because a lot of times we'll be ready to give up. And if we able to sit right here right now and have a conversation, just think, if the wrong party gets in office and this Project 2025 pass, what we gonna do? When Trump, when number 45, I got to correct myself. When he got elected in 16, I'm from the labor movement, doom and gloom. Doom and gloom. They were starting to shut down civil rights departments. It was shut down different conferences that actually talked about civil rights, and you know, pretty much it was doom and gloom. And I'm like, I asked one of our labor leaders, I said, like, while y'all doing all that, y'all do know that y'all impressing us, right? Well, what you talking about? What you talking about? I said, you shutting down things like that give us education. And out of your own mouth, you told me that y'all looking out for y'all other members. We don't want to make the other members upset. So to tell me that in my face, that was a slap. But that made me go harder with this. Like it's, you know, having your own platform, your own stage, under your own umbrella, nobody can tell you anything. Can't now one person in the labor movement tell me how to move. And I don't look at it as power. I do look at it as influence. And not egotistical influence, not influence of arrogance. Other than the influence of education, an influence of inspiration, an influence for people to see within themselves that, hey, look, you know what I'm saying? We can all rise up. I never did anything that I didn't try to pull somebody else up with me. We all gotta think like that. We all do. This right here, this is an important series to me. It's an important series to Black Liberty Project. Because we feel like, you know, this is another attack. This is 2024 and Black folks are still getting attacked, man. No. 60 years after the Civil Rights Act. 60 years and almost 2 months.
Yes.
We still getting attacked. We get one election, we think, hey, we expect for people to do a whole lot for us. I expect for us to actually make it. That's a different thought. That's a different mentality. Right now, if I won $50 million, my brother, I know he's gonna give me $5 million. He'll give me something, you know. I might be like, I don't know. Let me see how far to stretch. Then he might come to, hey man, look, I did this for you, and he demands I give it to him. That's action. That's action. You know what I mean? So I mean, like I saw what Brother Clarence is trying to say, and I want to give like a deeper perspective to it, because we do have two totally different education systems within this country, whether they're private, whether they're public. We got two different education systems. But public schools, Black folks have suffered for years. We had African American history in my high school. They kept it, which made sense, even though the book was only that thick. Book about that thick. But it made sense, it was logical. But they took it away 2 years later.
Absolutely.
That shocked me, but you actually made, we had to make sure that we passed US history, where the book was like that thick. I mean, I'm saying like these, tonight like I said, this is just an introduction to the Town Hall series. Part 2, Pastor Jackson will get all the way in, we'll have some more folks up here that are gonna get all the way in. But we really wanna hear from you, like, when you heard about Project 2025, like, how did that make you feel? When you read some of the content of the documents, how did that make you feel? That's really the introduction part of this whole series. How does the community feel when it comes to it?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for having this meeting here on Project 2025, because I was raising this back last September and nobody was listening to me. And like I said, once you start seeing what the summary of that 900 pages are, it's enough to give you the heebie-jeebies.
All right.
And another thing I'd like to do is thank Reverend Jackson, because he does a wonderful job thinking beyond the pulpit. This man takes it from Gary to Washington, D.C. Okay, because I was on Zoom meetings with him, and he was working on a CHIPS Act and everything like that to try and make our lives better. So he knows how to reach out and beyond the pulpit and do what we need to do to make things better for people. And then there's another Reverend Jackson, we got to think about too, because he's done some wonderful things, and his Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah.
We can't let this Heritage Foundation divide us. We got to unite. We got to be arm in arm. And it's like Dolores Huerta said, we're all one human race. Okay? And that's how we got to think about it. And this education system is screwed up. It's been screwed up for years. It was screwed up when I was in high school, because I went to Hammond Tech. I'm a Hammond Tech Tiger. In my sophomore year in high school, the counselor drags me in. I'm taking these college prep classes, and he tells me, you can't afford to go to college. Okay? And I was angry. So I was in the machine shop. I went back and talked to my shop teacher, who was old school, hardcore guy. He laid the F-bomb out and said, don't worry about that guy. You just go get your apprenticeship as a machinist. He says, you'll always have a job, and they can't stop you from going to college. So I went on a 14-year plan to college, but I made it. But it shouldn't be that way. Okay? And society has changed. My parents had 8th grade educations, so they really weren't in a good position to actually advise me either, But, my dad, he worked at Alice Chalmers and Harvey, and, as a steel worker. And we made it, a lot of pinto beans and cornbread, but hey, Mom knew how to make that stuff in the South, And then in my generation, if you got through high school, you're going to make it, okay? That was the big thing. Stay out of jail and get a high school diploma, and you're going to do all right. Now we're in a different era now, where we got to look at this different, and we got to think about it. We got to push hard, because now these kids are required to have a minimum of 2 years of college, but we should have 4 years of free college. And this is what Bernie Sanders was pushing for. And he's right on target, because if we want to create a society to where we're successful, that's the direction we got to go. And it ain't a matter about segregating on what color you are. It's a matter of creating opportunity for everybody. And we need to be united as a people. And we need to make sure that division stuff stops. Because I get upset. I live in Highland, and I get upset because they don't acknowledge Martin Luther King Day. They don't acknowledge Juneteenth. And I send them some nasty emails, and they still don't want to do anything. The only thing they have done, they have created a barbecue. Yeah. We have that now. Right. But we're not doing it on Juneteenth though. So we have to change some minds, and we got to make sure that these evil people out there don't divide us. We got to come together.
Yeah.
This is so important. You know, it's just like Martin Luther King said. I want my black little girls and my white little girls walking hand in hand together. This is what we got to do. We got to come together, and this election is the same thing. People need to look hard at the candidates and say, what are the best candidates that are going to do for me, and let's get it done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add this in, if it's okay? Public schools are funded through property values. It's an arbitrary way of funding schools that somebody came up with in order to make white schools better than the schools that serve black communities. It can change overnight with, again, the people. Property values are how the public schools are funded, which is why most of the time in black communities, brown communities, public schools don't have enough resources. They're not funded properly, so that you can have the best teachers and you can have the resources that are needed. The other thing I want to raise is the issue of civics. So, and you were talking about a lot of young folks are saying, hey, why should I vote and whatnot? Well, because you haven't had meetings like this where we educate about what civics is. In other words, how does government actually work? So I'm for reparations for black folk, right? And there are groups like ADOS and FBA, who I'm laughing because I'm trying not to say anything bad right now, because I get into not fist fights but arguments with the alphabet folk, FBA and the ADOS folk, because I'm for reparations. But you talk to some of our folk in these groups, and they'll say, "Well, just cut the check." They gave Native Americans and the Japanese, reparations. Yeah, they did. But look at what they did to get it. Because they understood how government works and what you have to do to get those things. Congress has to pass that. And you have to work on policy plans and all of that. So civics is so important. How does government work? So that then we'll understand that when, certain people say, because they signed a stimulus check, when they signed the stimulus check, they tried to make everybody think, I'm the one that gave you this money. That money came from the Obama administration, right? Because when you understand how government works, there's a residual, there's a delayed effect that happens, right? But again, and that goes into something else. We have to, especially now, we have more than ever, especially during Bill Lucy and my hero of all times, Ella Baker, who to me was the greatest organizer that ever walked the earth. And all you got, and you want to argue with me on it? I'm here for all the smoke. But they didn't have, we have, and that is social media, where anybody can say anything and kind of make it sound real good with a whole lot of passion. And then we say, well, yeah, that makes sense. No, you have to be careful about that. And that's hurting us right now, because celebrities are being paid to say stuff to distract us, right? And so we have to be very careful of that. And the last thing I want to say is we have to learn from the past to stop being one-issue voters, right? So when George Bush, young George Bush was in, he knew the buttons to push: abortion, gay rights. And that caused many of us to be one-issue voters. Where I can't vote. That if you disagree, if you find whatever you think about abortion and gay rights, and a candidate is saying, I'm trying to make sure everybody is taken care of, even those who are in the LGBTQIA, and make sure that women have a right to decide what they want to do with their body. Now, if that candidate is for that, you say, well, them two I don't like, but everything else lines up, then it is political suicide to be a one-issue voter to say, well, I don't agree with that. You don't agree with yourself all day. Come on now. So these are things, you know, that we can't let folk manipulate us into A, being so frustrated that we don't vote, and B, end up voting for a third-party candidate. I love Cornel West, but he's wrong as two left shoes. A prophet, and he knows this, so it's ego. Prophets don't run for office. And prophets don't want to be head of the empire. So third-party voting right now is voting for the person that you don't like, right? Because if we, and I believe we need more parties, but that starts locally. You start building up, you know, that third party locally. You don't start with the presidency. You don't wait every 4 years to decide I'm gonna put my name in. No, that's not how this works. And so we have to, you know, we have to be clear on that. I would, you know, like for us to think about, you know, what 3 policy items do you think are necessary, absolutely necessary, for any candidate to agree to? And next time we meet, you know, maybe we'll get some time to talk about the 3 items that you have. I mean, again, if we're going to talk about putting together policies that we're going to tell our elected officials, this is what you're going to do. This ain't what we suggested. This is what you're going to do, or we ain't going to vote for you, right? Then perhaps it would be a good thing if it's okay, EJ, but everybody leave from here and start pondering on what 3 policy items do you feel are absolutely necessary for any elected official to agree to, right? And what we'll end up doing is putting together a platform that we can always, you know, judge our elected officials or those running for office to stand up to, right? Okay, thank you.
Those powerful words. But that's a directive and a setup for part 2. And we definitely want everyone in here, make sure next time you bring someone with you. Let's fill up every seat that we have in here. I believe this was a really great discussion. Pastor Jackson challenged all of us. We need 3 policies, everybody bring them. And what we'll do is, we might end up stretching the next one, like an extra hour. And we'll take just a segment out of that and try to go over every last one of them. And we might have a board we can write on all that, a flip chart to write them down. And I think that's a start. And now the thing is, this is not just going to end when the election is over.
Right.
We're going to have our own follow-up. And that's one thing we don't do enough of, is follow-up. So like, this is, let's say this is the start of the new beginning. This is the start for the next election cycle, before the election cycle gets here, which will be in 2 years. That's the midterm.
Yep.
So like, I love the challenge, so it's cool with us. It's cool with us. Like, we go ahead and put that on right there, and that'll be part of the discussion. And like I said, we're gonna have more folks with Pastor Jackson up here. It's gonna get real intense. Cause we really want y'all to know more that's up in this this document. We're gonna try to have some leaflets for y'all that's gonna give you some more insights what's up in it, so you can take back with you. We'll have more food. So make sure everybody eat well. But I like this. Like, I think everything turned out great, and this started with something good right here, something great. So before we all leave, it's like every event we do with Black Labor Week, I start with a quote and end with a quote. So I'm gonna say both of the quotes right now. April Randolph had a quote saying, "We often hate each other because we fear each other." We fear each other because we don't know each other. We don't know each other because we can't communicate. And we can't communicate because we're separated. Now, to be honest, like, that quote was like real. And when you really look at us, it's on point. It's on point. Because we do have this sense of hate because of fear. And, you know, we fear each other because we're choosing not to know each other. You know what I mean? We're choosing that. And a lot of people, like a lot of black folks, so we have a lot of trauma. So sometimes what we do is, I heard Jay-Z say, and it stood out because it was actually true. A lot of times we get upset when a person is looking at us smiling. And we're not, you know, what we're getting upset at is the fact that we think the person is smiling at us, see everything that we're going through. And they're smiling at our trauma, they're laughing at our trauma, versus actually trying to find out what's wrong with us. But that's just an assumption. But that's the kind of trauma we have as black folks. So the second quote is the reversal of the first one, because what we try to do with Black Liberty Project is make sure that we don't hate each other. Because we want to make sure that we don't fear each other. And we don't fear each other because we learn to know each other. We learn to know each other because we found out we can communicate. And we found out we communicate by realizing we're not separated. Now, when we actually understand these things, we move as one. We understand each other. We get to communicate, so we give more ideas amongst each other. We can build with each other, organize with each other, and then most importantly, mobilize with each other. We can make change with each other. But we just gotta get over that first hump by thinking that we hate and we fear because we don't know and we don't communicate because we are. Once we do that, we move. That's happened every year during Black Labor Week. Pastor Jackson witnessed it on that Monday. Like, folks come in and, you know, believe it or not, Pastor Jackson, they all strangers. When you say it don't look like it, but they all strangers. And, you know, we really focus on that because we want to change that whole narrative of that first quote. Don't get me wrong, that was a powerful quote by a powerful man. And I know you said Ella Baker, but I was in George Baker right now too, so, you know, we had a battle of time to go back and forth. Okay. But so with that, we, as Black Liberty Project Incorporated, want to thank you all.
All right.
Want to thank you all, and make sure y'all understand our mission. Our mission is to unapologetically reshape the narrative of the Black community.
All right.
So we want to thank y'all for coming out, showing support. Part 2 is October 15th. Right back here at Trinity United. We will be having the flyers out. We will be having have the flyers out. We'll be doing some posts and events. Trying to put out there the display the event. But we, like I said, if you can. Same time. Selfie will probably go 5 to 8, if that's okay with you. That's okay. And you know, we want to have every seat filled. This discussion is like heavy. And the more we get into it, the more you're going to see the impact that that's going to have. It's going to have upon you. So I have upon us. So with that, thank you. Oh,
What will be the focus of the second session?
more details of what's in the documents. More details so you can see exactly, like right now, I'll give you a prime example. So you got it when it comes to, let's say, civil rights. They're talking about using the second term to punish political enemies. Eliminates the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in every government agency. Stop workplace discrimination, data collection. Makes it easier for employees to discriminate based on race and gender. You know, just things like that, so we can have more conversation of what that means.
All right.
That's okay?
All right.
All right, thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
All right.
We got more food in the back too, so if you like chicken, pick up